there were two hunters who chartered to fly a plane, fly them north into the far wilderness to do some elk hunting. And when they got there, of course, they started hunting, and they were very successful. Both of them bagged 3 elks apiece. You know, that's like 6 between the two of them. Well, as arranged, the aircraft came back. The chartered aircraft came back to fly them home. And the pilot takes a look at the 6 elk and all their equipment, and he's like, look, I can't take all of those elk home. I'm only going to be able to take 2 apiece. If I try to fly all of this out, we're never going to be able to take off. Well, the hunters, you know, they're like, well, last year we came up here and we both got 3 elk apiece, and the pilot flew us out, and he had the same kind of equipment that you're flying. So the pilot, he's just like, oh, all right. They load everything on, and they began taxiing down the runway, and they build up speed, and the plane was struggling to take off, never lifting off the ground. It gets to the end of the runway, and about 100 yards beyond the runway, it crashes. And the 2 hunters kind of climb out of the wreckage, and the one fella turns to his friend. He says, wow, do you have any idea where we are? And the second hunter says, yeah, I think it's 30 feet past where we crashed last year. Someone once told me, when in doubt, don't. My father would always say, better safe than sorry, right? Maybe you've heard that one too. This is called being cautious. It's a behavior that avoids risks and considers the possible outcome. That's what the world says. Cautiousness is that. You consider the risks, and if they seem to be too great, you avoid them. Better safe than sorry, right? The dictionary also points out that the cautious person is also sometimes slow and uncertain. But for the most part, a positive understanding, and that's what I want to look at this week. Not necessarily the cautious person who is slow and uncertain, but I want to talk about the individual this week. The positive side of all of that is the cautious person who considers all the possibilities and then makes an informed decision. They think things through before they act. That's the side of cautiousness that I want to take a look at this week. The author of the Disciples' Journal, he also suggests this, that cautiousness is being discerning so we do not rush into things when the timing is wrong or the situation doesn't merit it. Cautiousness is being sensitive to dangers, to God's timing, God's providence, and also the knowledge that he gives us. It is keeping a governor on our passions and our excitement so we don't overrun others or take others to places they're not ready for yet. Being cautious also means knowing that we are not the essential component in the church. He is. I don't want to confuse you with this, the other side of cautiousness. I don't want you to confuse cautiousness with being timid and fearful. We got to be, we have to understand that when you're cautious, you're not timid, you're not afraid. The timid, fearful person might say they're being cautious, but usually they just lack faith. So for our study here this week, the Christian who is cautious turns to the Lord before making choices and decisions. It's allowing God to speak into our lives. And King Solomon reminds us, this is Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. And Solomon actually reminds us, he says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Don't depend on your own understanding. Seek his will in all that you do, and he will show you which path to take. Now, question number 1 in the self-evaluation section asks this. It says, do I wait on the Lord before I make major decisions? And so to understand this concept of cautiousness, cautiousness is being sensitive to God's timing and trusting in God's wisdom. It's learning to listen when a pilot says no. So I'm going to return tomorrow and take a look at what Isaiah has to say about cautiousness. Hope you can join me, and I'll see you then. My name is Pastor Greg, and you've been watching Transforming the World.